Hopes of finding any survivors from the Washington DC air disaster are rapidly fading, with all 64 on board the plane and 3 in the helicopter believed to now be dead. Horror footage showed the moment the twin-engined CRJ-700 jet collided with the US Army Black Hawk, with a bright flash lighting up the sky. Desperate rescue crews have spent hours frantically searching for survivors in the freezing water, with efforts being hampered by dark and cold conditions. Officials have warned there are many deaths, as authorities figure out exactly what caused the tragedy. This is the minute-by-minute breakdown of how the crash unfolded. At 5:18 p.m. on the 29th of January, the American Eagle Flight 5342 took off from Wichita, Kansas. Several ice skaters were on board, having been at a contest in the city. USA Figure Skating later confirmed their athletes, coaches and relatives were all travelling home. Then at 8:39 p.m, a US Army UH-60 helicopter also took off from Fort Beaver, Virginia, with 3 soldiers on board as part of a training exercise. Around a minute later, the American Airlines jet started to approach the Ronald Reagan National Airport. Air traffic controllers then started to ask the arriving jet if it could land on the shorter runway 33, with pilots later agreeing. But at 8:47 p.m, an air traffic controller then made a final attempt to communicate with a rogue helicopter regarding the plane that it was now heading towards. The crash took place shortly after, as CCTV captured a bright flash in the sky when they collided. Controllers quickly reacted after seeing the crash unfold, with one saying, "Oh my god, tower, did you see that? Crash, 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 this is an alert 3. Another can be heard frantically saying, "I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was a collision on the approach into 3-3. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future." Before a third adds, "Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone. I haven't seen anything since I hit the river, but it was a CRJ and a helicopter that hit." Within minutes, police and emergency crews arrived at the scene after several concerned messages from the public. At 9:11 p.m, the first search and rescue boat arrived at the scene as divers begin to scour the water for survivors. Ever since, emergency crews have been patrolling the freezing Potomac River, with 28 bodies being found so far. Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly said all 64 people on board the plane and the 3 people on the helicopter are now believed to be dead. He said the rescue mission has turned into a recovery operation and there are not thought to be any survivors. If so, it would make it the deadliest US air crash in nearly 24 years. An aviation expert told The Sun he believes several scenarios could be behind the deadly helicopter and plane collision, from a training mishap to a disastrous tech failure. Julian Bray says the crash defies explanation, with a number of concerning and tragic possibilities running through his head. He urged investigators to try all they can to recover and decode the black boxes which are still missing. Investigations are ongoing, with more bodies and identities expected to be announced in the coming hours.
Visibility was clear, so they should have been able to see each other. For some reason, we don't know, say the helicopter pilot might have been distracted or something was going on, or they might have been taking part in a training exercise where they deliberately turn off bits of kit and you have to do a workaround. We don't know. That we will find out when the black boxes are decoded. They'll be taken away and they're time coded, so you'll hear all the conversations going on. Also, the data recorder will log every switch that's been pressed, buttons pressed, switches pulled, whatever. So they can marry the two together and find out what's happening on board, together with all the satellite transmissions that it pings, makes all the time. So they'll be coded into the time-coded tape, so they have a complete picture of what is happening there. It shouldn't have happened. It's as simple as that. It could be a mechanical failure. Helicopters do go wrong occasionally. They're pretty safe, but occasionally one goes rogue, and these things happen. So that might have happened. What are we looking at? We're looking at something that defies explanation at the moment, but it's happened. So we have to start from there. All the investigation crews and teams are on site already. And so they've already started doing the investigation part, because the point is, if there's something materially wrong, either with the Bombardier or with the Black Hawk helicopter, then other people need to know, and very quickly.
I speak to you this morning in an hour of anguish for our nation. Just before 9 p.m. last night, an American Airlines regional jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter carrying 3 military service members over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., while on final approach to Reagan National Airport. Both aircraft crashed instantly and were immediately submerged into the icy waters of the Potomac. Real tragedy. The massive search and rescue mission was underway throughout the night, leveraging every asset at our disposal, and I have to say the local, state, federal, military, including the United States Coast Guard in particular, they've done a phenomenal job. So quick, so fast, it was mobilized immediately. The work has now shifted to a recovery mission. Sadly, there are no survivors. This was a dark and excruciating night in our nation's capital and in our nation's history, and a tragedy of terrible proportions. As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us so suddenly, and we are a country of really, we are in mourning. This is really shaken a lot of people, including people, very sadly, from other nations who were on the flight. For the family members back in Wichita, Kansas, here in Washington, D.C., and throughout the United States and in Russia, we have a Russia contingent, some very talented people. Unfortunately, were on that plane. Very, very, very sorry about that. Whose loved ones were aboard the passenger jet. We can only begin to imagine the agony that you're all feeling. Nothing worse. On behalf of the First Lady, myself, and 340 million Americans, our hearts are shattered alongside yours, and our prayers are with you now and in the days to come. We'll be working very, very diligently in the days to come. We're here for you to wipe away the tears and to offer you our devotion, our love, and our support. There's great support. In moments like this, the differences between Americans fade to nothing compared to the bonds of affection and loyalty that unite us all, both as Americans and even as nations. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. That icy, icy Potomac, it was a cold, cold night, cold water. We're all overcome with the grief for many who have so tragically perished, will no longer be with us. Together we take solace in the knowledge that their journey ended not in the cold waters of the Potomac, but in the warm embrace of a loving God.